Part 6. The Pandavas rejoice, and the Kauravas cry. The Kauravas cried out in grief, realizing the darkness had been only Krishna's illusion. Duryodhana fell to his knees in his chariot. He dropped his weapons, and hot tears flowed from his eyes. All of his warriors were struck dumb as they slowly left the battlefield. However, overjoyed at the success of his friend, Krishna embraced Arjuna. "Oh, my dear Jishnu, by a good fortune you have slain Jayadratha and his wretched father, who was a constant enemy of the gods. Why, I do not think that even Kartikeya could have achieved what you have. You killed an entire Akshauhini of soldiers. Your prowess resembles that of Rudradev. Today, Duryodhana and his followers are surely realizing their end is near." Still perspiring from his prodigious efforts, Arjuna smiled. "O Krishna, by your favor only has all of this been achieved. It is no wonder that anyone whom you support gains victory. Surely Yudhishthir will regain his kingdom, and my brothers and I are ever at your service." And once again, Krishna embraced Arjuna and then drove the chariot towards their camp. And as they headed back, they surveyed the large number of warriors lying all over the field. The earth seemed to be filled with men, horses, elephants, and chariots. Thousands of servants and physicians came from the camps to tend to the wounded, who lay moaning with arrows and lances protruding from their bodies. Millions of shining arrows were strewn across the battlefield, along with broken maces, swords, and armor. Bright gold ornaments gleamed amid fragments of shattered chariots, and as darkness fell, the earth seemed as resplendent as the autumnal sky, studded with countless stars. Krishna then blew his conchal loudly, gladdening the hearts of the Pandava warriors. Reaching Yudhishthir, Arjuna folded his palms and worshipped his brother with a joyful heart. Yudhishthir dismounted from his chariot and embraced Arjuna with tears in his eyes. Krishna also got down from the chariot and touched Yudhishthir's feet out of respect. The Pandava king embraced Krishna and said, "O Govinda, it is by your grace that we stand victorious today. Our enemies are drowned in a sea of grief. Everything is certain for those who you favor. Simply by seeking your shelter, one is assured of all good fortune. Those who desire to please you never meet with sin or reversal." Trembling with transcendent happiness, Yudhishthir went on praising Krishna for some time. And when Yudhishthir had finished, Krishna replied, "That wretched Jayadratha has been consumed by the fire of your anger, O king. Duryodhana's vast and proud armies are gradually being annihilated, O Bharata. Having insulted and angered you, that low-minded Duryodhana faces destruction along with all of his followers. Those who have chosen to become your enemies are already defeated, although you bear no malice towards any living being." Next, Bhima and Satyaki, their bodies covered with arrow wounds, came and stood before Arjuna. After embracing them both, Arjuna spoke tearfully. "Oh, it is by good fortune I see you both today. freed from the Kaurava Ocean, in which Drona is an invincible alligator and Kritavarma an invincible shark. It was fortunate that you made Karna, Kripa, and Shalya flee. Both of you are as dear to me as my own life. With you as my support and protector, I have no fear. And so, the Pandavas headed back joyfully to their camp, blowing their conch shells and praised by bards and eulogists. Om Namah Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Maha-Bharata, second half, chapter 19, The Kauravas Rally, part 1, Drona's final determination. After Jayadratha's death, the Kaurava warriors expressed their sorrow. Seeing so many of their numbers slain, the soldiers condemned Dhritarashtra and his son Duryodhana. Censuring them for their wicked policies, the warriors praised Yudhishthir and his brothers. Sunk in despair, Duryodhana rode back to his camp. He sat on the terrace of his chariot with his head lowered. Unable to look at anyone, Duryodhana's mind dwelt only on the day's events. Surely there was no warrior equal to Arjuna, for neither Drona, Kripa, not even Karna could stand before Bibhatsu. Indeed, the whole army combined could not stop Kiriti from killing Jayadratha. Duryodhana wept in his agony. Entering his tent, he took his seat, followed by Drona Acharya and the other generals. No music played in the camp tonight, and the bards were silent. Struggling to maintain his composure, the Kaurava prince addressed Drona in a voice strained with grief. "O preceptor, behold the carnage among the kings who have come to our side. Even the mighty Bhishma now lays prostrate on the battlefield. The Pandavas have slaughtered 7 Akshauhinis of our troops. Today, your disciple fulfilled his vow and killed Jayadratha. Even though you opposed Arjuna with an impenetrable array of troops, many lords of this earth, desiring to do us good, have now gone to the abode of Yamaraj. How can I repay my debt to them? Being nothing more than a coward, I have destroyed my friends and relatives. At once this earth should swallow me, covetous, sinful, and opposed to virtue as I am. My own grandsire lies on a bed of arrows due to my wicked desires. What will he say when he meets me in the next world?" Duryodhana stopped speaking and wept openly. He buried his head in his hands and cried out the names of his slain brothers. Karna came over and comforted him. Gradually, Duryodhana gained control of himself and sat up. He sat staring straight ahead for some time, wringing his hands and breathing heavily. His mind moved between despair and the desire for revenge. All was not lost. The Kauravas still had Drona, Karna, Ashvatthama, and other powerful heroes. Perhaps they could yet defeat the Pandavas, or at least capture or even kill Yudhishthir. But in any circumstance, surrender was simply impossible. It would be better to be slain down to the last man than to hand over the kingdom to the Pandavas after all that has happened. Yes, that was the least the surviving Kauravas could do to repay their slain colleagues. With tears running down his face, Duryodhan continued speaking. O Drona, O foremost of warriors, I swear that I will obtain peace only by slaying the Pandavas or else being slain by them. I will follow the path taken by our friends and relatives. Seeing us overpowered by our enemies, our partisans are losing faith in our power. Why, they are openly praising the Pandavas. With Bhishmadev fallen, and you fighting only mildly, our troops think we have no protector. Why, it seems that Karna alone is anxious for our success. Oh, like a fool, I have depended on someone who is a friend only in words. Greedy for wealth and sinful, my mind blinded by desire, I have placed my hopes where they were bound to be thwarted. Now, as a result, Jayadratha and so many other kings all lie dead on the battlefield. O Drona, permit me therefore to lay down my life in battle, just as all of these men have done. Drona removed his helmet and long gloves, placing them by his side. His muscular arms were lacerated from wounds caused by numerous arrows, while skilled physicians applied herbal dressings to the cuts. But the reproachful words of Duryodhan stung Drona more than the wounds themselves. He then turned to the prince and said, Why, O king, do you pierce me with words as sharp as darts? Repeatedly I have told you, no one can defeat Arjuna in battle. Seeing Bhishma brought down, I am convinced that we are doomed. The very dice Shakuni threw against the Pandavas have returned against us as blazing arrows. Vidura warned you of this, but you did not heed him. One who ignores well-wishers and goes his own way is stupid and is soon reduced to a pitiable condition. O Duryodhan, you have brought about this calamity upon all of us simply by dragging Draupadi into the assembly of the Kudus and insulting her. Such a sinful deed cannot go unpunished. Drona had heard enough from Duryodhan. He reminded him of every wicked act he had performed against the Pandavas, making it clear that the Kauravas had no one to blame but themselves for their present suffering situation. They had been warned many times that fighting the Pandavas would not result in success. Drona Acharya looked at Duryodhana and his surviving brothers. Bhimasena had already slain 1/2 of them, and the remainder were a sorry sight in their grief and frustration. Drona felt that it was still his duty to afford them whatever protection he could provide, but there was little hope. Standing up with his hand on his ivory-hilted sword, Drona continued to address Duryodhan. Seeing me sinking in the ocean of the Pandavas' prowess, you should not enhance my grief, O king. Hear now my final determination. I will not take off my armor again until all of the Panchalas are slain. My son, Ashvatthama, will kill the Somakas. With those 2 armies gone, it may be possible for us to defeat the Pandavas. Now, here is the invincible Kripa Acharya. Our enemies cannot kill him. Let him exert his full power to kill the kings who have sided with the Pandavas. O Duryodhan, worship Brahmanas and offer them many gifts. Make offerings into the sacred fire and propitiate the deities. We will make one last great effort. Tomorrow I will ride at the head of your army with my weapons ablaze. You will see me penetrate the ranks of the Pandavas like a lion entering a herd of cows. Now cheered by Drona's words, the Kauravas slowly retired for the night, exhausted from the day's fighting. Yashomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Purana Dhana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vithana Amala Harinam Amyavilata Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Maha-Bharata, second half, chapter 19, part 2, hopeless Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra sat silently on his throne. By his side, Sanjaya gently dabbed his brow with a soft cloth soaked in cool water. The old king had lost consciousness when he heard how Bhimasena had slain over 30 of his sons in one day. Returning to consciousness, Dhritarashtra learned that Arjuna had succeeded in his vow to kill Jayadratha. Struck dumb with grief, Dhritarashtra moaned softly. Was there any hope for the Kauravas when their entire force could not prevent Arjuna from reaching the Sindhu king? The blind monarch spoke in a voice barely rising above a whisper. O Sanjaya, O best of all my servants, tell me how my surviving sons are now faring, having seen their army routed and Jayadratha slain. Day by day my fame dwindles. Numerous powerful warriors on my side are being slain. All of this is due to the adverse influence of fate. Arjuna smashed into our host, which was being protected by Drona and Karna. Even the gods could not have stopped Arjuna. Surely Libhatsu is an irresistible, surging ocean. And then there is Bhimasena. One half of my sons are now dead. Bhima will not rest until he has killed the other half. In the meantime, Arjuna, aided by Drishtadyumna and Satyaki, will annihilate the other Kuru heroes. Oh, it is hard to believe. At the beginning of the war, our army outnumbered the Pandavas 2-1. But now only 4 of our 11 divisions remain, while the Pandavas have 3. The odds now are almost equal." With his head down, Dhritarashtra listened as Sanjaya described the conversation between Duryodhana and Dronacharya. Hearing that the preceptor had again vowed to slay the Pandava forces, the old king became encouraged. The war was not over yet. Drona and Karna were still alive, as well as Kripa, Ashvatthama, and a number of other warriors. They would be burning with anger and a desire to avenge the death of Jayadratha. Perhaps, too, Arjuna would become fatigued after exerting himself so tremendously. Things may yet turn the other way, for wars had often been won by rallying troops when all had seemed hopeless. Seeing Dhritarashtra looking more hopeful, Sanjaya then said, "O king, you should not forget that Krishna is the guide and protector for the Pandavas. It was due to Krishna's help that Arjuna succeeded today. Your men have no hope if they oppose Keshava in battle. Krishna is the unfailing defender of the righteous, and Krishna is the annihilator of the demoniac. Steeped in sin and ignorant of virtue, your sons are bringing about a terrible calamity upon themselves and their friends. Their single hope lies in returning the Pandavas' rightful property. However, O king, I fear that opportunity has now all but passed, and this is your fault. It will result in a massive destruction of Kshatriyas." Dhritarashtra now remembered the form Krishna had displayed in the council hall where he was now sitting. And after that, Dhritarashtra heard about Krishna's many glories from the rishis, descriptions he had heard before. Trying to bring the king to his senses, the rishis had again reminded Dhritarashtra how Krishna had killed numerous asura demons who were capable of assuming forms at will and who had terrorized even the gods. Feeling a strange sense of peace as he thought of Krishna, Dhritarashtra continued to speak to Sanjaya. "Even if by chance we are able to defeat the Pandavas, we will still have to contend with Keshava. For their interests, Krishna will take up his irresistible discus and rush against our forces like the all-consuming fire of universal destruction. And after destroying the Kurus, Krishna will offer the earth to Kunti. I do not see how we can attain victory. Duryodhana is ignorant of Krishna's actual position and power. That faithless fool is a slave to his senses only. He can never understand the absolute truth. He is like a child who wishes to extinguish fire with his bare hands. Arjuna and Krishna are united as one soul. Their aims and desires are one, and even the mighty Mahadev cannot thwart them." Thinking of his son Duryodhana, the king again felt sorrow filling his heart. Would he ever see Duryodhana again? Oh, it seemed unlikely. Duryodhana would probably die in the battle. Yet the ways of fate were inscrutable. Even Krishna, it seemed, could not prevent the death of Abhimanyu. Surely Krishna could not have wanted that son of his dear friend and sister to die? Gripped now by the duality of realizing the inevitable and yet hoping to resist it, Dhritarashtra rose from his seat and his servants led him away. He told Sanjaya to return the next day and recount any events of the night and how the battle would begin again. Amala Harinam Amiya Ilasa Vipina Purandara Naveen Nagara Pora Pangshi Badana Svasa Braja Janapalana Surakulanashana Godhana Rakuvana Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasa Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasa Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Maha-Bharata, second half, chapter 19, part 3. Karna tells Duryodhana, destiny is supreme. As the sun rose on the 14th day, Duryodhana, seething as he recalled the events of the previous day, spoke with Karna.
Tell me, how was it possible for Arjuna to penetrate our ranks yesterday? Why, before your very eyes, Bibhatsu slew Jayadratha. Even with Krishna's devious trick, it still should not have been possible. My once vast army has been reduced to a pitiable few by the son of Shakra. Surely this must be Drona Acharya's desire. I cannot accept that the preceptor is fighting to his full power. If Drona had simply opposed Arjuna with all of his strength yesterday, Jayadratha would not have been killed. Yes, Arjuna is exceedingly dear to the magnanimous Drona. And fool that I am, I believed him when Drona promised to protect Jayadratha. Now I am full with despair. O Prince, I do not think you should blame the preceptor. Heedless of his own life, Drona fights our enemies furiously. It is not his fault that Drona failed to prevent Dhananjay, being guided by Krishna, from fulfilling his vow. Clad in impenetrable armor and wielding his Gandiva bow, Shvetavahana is most formidable. So it is no wonder to me that Bibhatsu overcame Drona. Furthermore, the preceptor is old and not so agile or quick. How can Drona Acharya contend with Arjuna on equal terms?
Karna and Duryodhana were riding out on their chariots as they were conversing. Ahead of them in the distance, they saw the Pandava forces spread across the horizon. With their armor and weapons glinting in the sun, the Pandavas' army appeared like a sparkling sea. Their roars and conchal blasts were answered by the Kaurava warriors. Karna put on his helmet as he continued to speak to Duryodhana.
O king, in my opinion, destiny is supreme. For despite our efforts and despite our numbers, and even though our army contains the greatest heroes, still fate makes our endeavor futile. If a man is afflicted by adverse destiny, he finds all of his exertions useless. Constantly we have antagonized the Pandavas, and yet they always emerge unharmed. I do not see that the Pandavas are superior to us in either intellect or power, nor do I feel that you, Duryodhana, have miscalculated through any lack of proper understanding. No. It is Daiva, it is fate alone that controls everything. So, if destiny has decreed that we should suffer reversals, then nothing within our power can alter that fact.
Duryodhana remained silent. Perhaps Karna was right. Fortune had surely favored the Pandavas. But fortune was always flickering. Surely it was time it favored Duryodhana. Drona had sworn to annihilate the Panchalas and Somakas, the major remnant of the Pandava army. So if Drona Acharya kept his vow, then the Kauravas might still attain victory. The prince clenched his teeth and looked at Drona, who was busy marshaling the troops into formation. It would not help if Duryodhana censured Drona now anymore. Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasa Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasa Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasa Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Maha-Bharata, second half, chapter 19, part 4. Bhima defeats more Kauravas.
Duryodhana's chariot reached the other Kuru leaders, and he issued orders and made arrangements. Having agreed upon a strategy for the day's fighting, the Kauravas formed themselves into an array shaped like a turtle. In response, the Pandavas aligned their troops in an arrangement resembling a shark. The two armies came together cheering, their weapons clashing as a huge cloud of dust rose above the battlefield.
Determined to end the conflict as quickly as possible, Bhimasena sought out the remaining Kaurava princes. As he charged into the enemy ranks, Bhima was surrounded by elephants and horsemen who rained down their weapons on the roaring Bhima. As a fierce battle began, Dhristadyumna and the twins rushed against the Madraka army. Susharma and the remainder of the Sangshaptakas, remembering their vow, challenged Arjuna. Satyaki stayed close to Yudhishthir, protecting him along with Shikandi and other chariot fighters. Drona Acharya encountered the Panchalas, showering them with tens of thousands of arrows. Invoking celestial weapons, Drona swiftly cut them down. A powerful king named Shibi, charging at the head of the Somakas, roared out his battle cry and challenged Drona. He struck him with 30 arrows and slew his chariot driver. Drona became infuriated and replied with 10 arrows made of steel. Drona slew Shibi's 4 horses, cut down his flag standard, and severed Shini's head as he stood in the fight. Duryodhan then ordered another chariot driver onto Drona Acharya's chariot, and Drona continued to fight the Panchalas and Somakas together. Meanwhile, Bhimasena was surrounded by a number of Kaurava princes. They assailed him from all sides with arrows. Not concerned about their attack, Bhima jumped down from his chariot and ran over to one of the Kaurava princes. Leaping onto the chariot, Bhima smashed him with his fists. With all of his limbs broken, the prince toppled lifeless from his chariot. Bhima then leaped down and raced over to another prince, striking and killing him in the same fashion. Karna came to the protection of the Kauravas, hurling a flaming dart at Bhima as Bhima ran across the battlefield. But Bhima faced that dart and caught it, immediately hurling it back at Karna. And as it flew towards Karna, Shakuni cut it down with a razor-headed shaft. Oblivious to the Kauravas' arrows, Bhima caught hold of another prince and killed him with one mighty slap. Bhima then remounted his chariot and blew his conchal. With a volley of gold-winged shafts, Bhimasena smashed the chariot of Durmada, another of Duryodhana's brothers. Durmada ran over to his brother Dushkarna's chariot and leaped aboard. Both princes stood together, firing their straight-flying arrows at Bhimasena by the hundreds. Bhima rushed at Dushkarna, demolishing his chariot with a single blow of his mace. The 2 princes jumped clear, but Bhima leaped down and pounded them with his fists. Struck repeatedly by Bhima, they both fell down dead, their bodies pulverized. Seeing Bhima ranging among them like an all-destroying tempest, the Kauravas cried out in fear, "Oh, surely this is Rudradev himself, come in the form of Bhimasena for our annihilation. Oh, let us flee for our lives." The soldiers then ran wildly from Bhima. None of them were seen to be running together as they fled without looking back. Now returning to his chariot, Bhimasena fought with Duryodhan, Kripa Acharya, and Karna. And as Bhima battled alone, a number of other Pandava warriors came to his support, and a violent struggle ensued. Amala Harinam Amiya Vilasa Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlad Aklad Dayani Hiranya Kashipo Vakshaha Shilatankana Kalayi Ito Nrsimha Bharato Nrsimho Yato Yami Tato Nrsimha Bhakti Nrsimho Vinay Nrsimho Nrsimham Ading Sharanam Prapadye Vakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanuvringam Keshavatvitta Narahadi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare